It has been said that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. The same can be said of habits, relationships, and successes. Today, we are celebrating some of the unique bonds and stories that define our Cook Children's family, indicators of a rich history and a very bright future. Hear stories from our staff that will inspire you as you are also a part of our story. We invite you to relax and sit a moment with us in today's inspiring and engaging conversation with Eric and Heather Max, founders of the Cooper Max Foundation, as well as our very own Sonny Burgess, Clinical Director of Performing Arts. Eric is someone that I would...
Who are you?
I am... You don't want to know who I am.
No, we do want to know who you are, everybody.
I'm Raymond, recording studio producer here.
What's your last name, Raymond?
Turner, but no relation to Tina.
There you go.
Although I wish. No relation to Ike, definitely not.
Sorry, I had to interrupt, but we want to know who you are.
Oh no,
for everybody.
Well, you can tell where this is going to go today.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we're so grateful to have Eric and Heather and Sonny here in the studio with us, and just consider Eric and Heather to be dear friends, and so it's really special having them here today just to share their story about Cooper Max and the Cooper Max Foundation. So Eric and we'll bring in Heather here later on in this podcast, but just want them to talk a little bit about their journey, their story with Cooper. Sonny also was a big part of that process and just walking with Cooper and the family in this. So thank you guys for being here.
Happy to be here. Maximus.
Thank y'all for having us. We appreciate it. Always have appreciated the staff at Cook Children's. Sonny, you've been God sent to us. We're honored to do this.
So, Eric, if you don't mind, share a little bit of what he was like and when you started to notice that something had changed with Cooper and what that was like when you guys started this journey here at Cook Children's.
Cooper was a very charismatic, loving, pranking, jokester, just all around little boy. And he was Heather and I's youngest child. We have an older son, Braden Allen. But Cooper, we brought him in on February 20th of 2015 after a visit to the pediatrician's office. We thought that maybe he had fallen out of bed, wasn't feeling real well, was complaining about his left arm hurting, and he had been kind of favoring it, really didn't want to use it a whole lot. So we went ahead and brought him up at the recommendation of a Cook Children's pediatrician there in Burleson. And I was at work, but they brought him up here, Heather did, and pretty much as soon as they got here, Heather was met by a team at the ER, and they did a quick exam, the basics, took his vitals, did basically a pupil exam, and almost immediately we were met by a team of neurologists and radiologists. And they told us that we just want to make sure that nothing pinched or broken is what we were told. And that was approximately, I'd say, 1:30 p.m. I called and see how things were going. And my sister-in-law by that time was here, and she had said, I think you might want to come up here. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. I got here, and Coop was laying on the exam table, and they had him in forearm braces, which we called them the no-nos, and they also had him in a C-collar, basically to keep his neck immobilized, just in case something was pinched or something was fractured. Approximately about 10 p.m. that night, and I'll never forget it, Dr. Hernandez, which is one of the neuro doctors here, came walking down the hallway from second floor surgery into the waiting room, and as he got closer, I noticed that there was a person standing behind him, and that person stepped out behind him. That person, we would come to find in a very, very few short minutes that person was a caseworker, and we were very soon to be hit with the words of, "We found a tumor." When my wife said, "What does that mean?" Instinct told me what it was, and I turned and looked at her and said, "It means he's got cancer." Little did we know that would start I believe, a 23-day stay for the initial stay here at Cook Children's. The first 9 days that we were here, there was no diagnosis of what type of tumor Cooper actually had. The biopsy stain slides made their way around the United States. Cooks, we're lucky enough, has this great network with oncologists and pediatric oncology across the nation, as well as some overseas. But after 9 days, we were presented with it is a extrarenal malignant rhabdoid tumor, which is highly, highly rare. Less than 3 dozen cases of it diagnosed in the U.S. yearly. It's also pretty much a immediate death sentence upon diagnosis. There's no known cure or treatment for it. Luckily, Clarissa Johnson, which was the pediatric oncologist that was on duty that night, she knew that it was a tumor that she had never seen, and she called Dr. Anish Ray, which is another person that throughout the story you'll come to find was and has become a very, very great and dear friend to us. He told her, send me the scans, I'll take a quick look. Looked at it, and he said, I would almost say that it resembles slightly a little bit of neuroblastoma, but I can't be certain until we get stain slides back. Here's the battalion of drugs that you need to start immediately to where we can get a jump on this. It's an aggressive tumor from what I'm seeing. So Cooper that evening went to the PICU, and they almost immediately, by 1:30 a.m. Saturday morning, the 21st, they had started a ferocious battery of chemotherapy on him. 9 a.m. that morning, we actually moved him over to Texas Oncology at Club Zuba, which is next door at Harris Methodist Fort Worth, or formerly Harris Methodist Fort Worth. That is where they proceeded to fit him with an immobilizer mask that basically anchored him to a table by his cranium to keep him from moving because where the tumor was at, because it was based in the C5 spinal canal, which is basically between the armpit and the inner right shoulder blade would be the best way to describe it. We knew that it was something major if they were bringing all these teams in on a Saturday for our little boy. Very frightening, very confusing, uncertainty as a father and as a mother, the uncertainty of what's going on and what you can do, not knowing what your options are, not even knowing what type of beast you're battling at that moment. Luckily, the staff here at Cook's, they were very compassionate. They were very informative and educational as much as they could be in the situation we were in. The first thing that they told us, and I'm glad that they told us, this tidbit of information is stay off the internet until we know what's going on. Do not Google this. It's just going to put more stress on you, which in turn is going to put more stress on your child. So, the first 9 days was very, very complicated. Raymond had made the comment about Sonny and how Sonny was affiliated. I had met Sonny 23, 24 years prior.
Late 90s.
Late 90s. Sonny was actually a Nashville recording artist at the time. I had no idea that Sonny was working at Cook Children's, and ran into him in the hallway, and we were talking, and we'd been having a hard time getting Coop to be interactive, period, any way, form, or fashion. A lot of it was the uncertainty, the confusion, the fear for him is what I can only imagine. You can't really imagine what's going through a toddler's mind at that point. I was talking with Sonny, and he said, well, I'd like to meet your wife. Let's go up, and I'd like to meet your son. Coop wasn't much for people at that time. Wouldn't come out from underneath the covers. literally would pull the covers over the top of his head.
He was funny. I still remember that first time I walked in and pulled the cover up like you play pea-pie, just rain down a little bit, just enough. I guess he thought it was another doctor and going to give him shots or whatever, but he... Anyway.
He was a character.
Yeah, he was. He had his mom and dad's fight and personality. It was definitely there, obvious. But not to interrupt, I call him Maximus, so y'all, Eric's Maximus. So Heather's Miss Maximus. That's what I've always... But anyway, what happened was then, I think it was either Heather or Eric, one said, hey, get your guitar. I went and got a guitar and came back. And, of course, that the covers came on down, and then played the Toy Story anthem, I guess you'd call it. But anyway, he kind of got moving around, which Raymond and myself both, and of course Heather and Eric have seen what music does here and Cook and helps people. And
with Cooper, with the music, I can tell you firsthand what I noticed, because as soon as he found out that there was instruments here and that Sonny, knew how to play the guitar, he wasn't just carrying it around for looks. And
well, some of that, yeah.
One of the things that we seen with Cooper is that he got to where he, instead of laying in his bed, not wanting to get up, he finally decided that he wanted to get up out of that bed and he wanted to go see Sonny's music studio downstairs. So my sister-in-law managed to get him up and get his house shoes on. He made it to the door before he was winded. You have to keep in mind that he hadn't been out of bed in several weeks, and his legs were a little bit weak, actually beyond weak. They were pretty much withered, and he had a love for Nerf guns. So here this little boy is, this poor little beat up, withered body. He makes it to the door and he's kind of exhausted. One of the nurses says, "Hold on just a second," and goes and gets a wagon. So we get him loaded up in the wagon. We bring him down here and he gets to check it out. We're sitting in the child life zone, by the way. And he gets to come down here and check it out. And he plays on the drums a little bit and strums a ukulele. And after that, child life zone and music room and let's go find Sonny didn't just become a once a day thing. It wasn't just a morning time thing. It was a 5 or 6 times a day. It was, hey, let's go see if Sonny's downstairs yet. Hey, let's go say bye to Sonny. In the beginning of this conversation, I said that upon diagnosis, pretty much it was a death sentence that we were given for our son. We had very few options because there's no known treatment or cure for rhabdoid. The folks at Cook's gave us 13 months with our son that we didn't have when he was originally diagnosed. In that 13 months, there were so many hurdles that they helped us or enabled us to figure out what tools to use to get Coop through those rough days, whether it be an emotionally rough day or a physically rough day. Because when these kids are going through this, it's more than just sick from the chemo, sick from the radiation. It's fear, it's uncertainty, it's anxiety.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine what these young kids go through. Cooks has been God sent to us. And, Sonny's been God sent. Raymond, you as well have been God sent to us since we decided to form the foundation. And even prior to that, when we've done some smaller events, these guys have stepped up to the plate. They've been there for us. They've helped us emotionally. They've helped us with professional contacts. They've given us creative thought, creative learning. So there's so many things that I feel blessed for, to know Sonny and Raymond and to know this entire staff at Cook's. These doctors and nurses here, and volunteers also, that's something else that really needs to be importantly focused on as well, is the volunteers that help make this hospital work. These nurses, doctors, and volunteers, they're not just that. To me, that's a piece of paper. That's just showing what their education is. But these are humanitarians. These are good folks that just absolutely care about these children. It's not a profession. It's not about the money. This is a love and a passion and a commitment for these people. This is their life. It's not easy what they do. But Cooper,
Talk about our cowboy angel.
Oh, that kid, he was full of it. Nothing slowed him down. Went through some of the harshest chemicals that you can put into a child's body to treat cancer. Went through more levels of radiation and more radiation treatments than most grown men at the age of 40 that weigh 250 pounds could ever handle. Not only did he do it without ever complaining, he did it with a smile. He was a true champion whenever it came to being a cancer-fighting kiddo. One of his biggest loves of life was being a cowboy. And he truly was that. He lived by the cowboy rule. It was the cowboy rule book, 110%. You treat people with manners, you treat them with respect, and you treat yourself the same way with self-manners, self-respect, and self-discipline. And if a person didn't do that, he was all over them and would set them straight. It used to anger him whenever he would see other children not open the doors for ladies or elderly. And he would get on to his brother, that was 7.5 years his senior. I'm so thankful that he did that because to this day, his older brother, his manners and respect, they're impeccable. You can't touch them.
Wow.
Cooper had a love for tricycles, to the point to where we actually had to go buy tricycles for the 5th floor, the hematology oncology floor, because they only had one. And, if there was another child on that tricycle, it wasn't fair, for them to have to quit playing because they're getting exercise and having fun. We bought one for the 5th floor while Coop was here. And we continue about every 3 to 4 months. Braden Allen and I, Coop's older brother, will we'll get up. Usually it's on a whim on a Saturday morning. We'll go buy a tricycle, get it put together, and get some donuts or some Whataburger, and we'll come up here and see the kids on the 5th floor and bring them a little addition to what we call the Cooper Max fleet, which we were recently actually asked to not add anything onto the fleet for a while because the garage is a little bit full. So,
I imagine.
you hit earlier where you were talking, Sonny, about music and about its effects. Music heals the soul. Doesn't matter if you're angry, if you're sad, if you're confused. Music heals the soul, whether it's a rhythm, whether it is a tempo, whether it is the ballad of the song. If you listen to the words or you listen to the music to the song, there's a healing point in it. You just have to find the healing point in that music. That's why I'm so grateful to Cooks and the sponsors that have paid for this amazing facility, not just the hospital, but Child Life Zone in general. If you folks out there listening to this podcast, if you've never been in here, you need to come in here and look at it. It's amazing.
You said our sponsors and, of course, the Child Life Zone, but, yeah, Garth Brooks and Troy Aikman actually stepped up. And
It's top of the line. But, even whenever that last fateful morning, I came down. It was very early. Sonny and Raymond hadn't made it here yet, but I looked at my phone and I realized I had some battery power left, and I went outside and I turned some music on, and I turned some songs on that Coop loved. And I pulled myself together because, I felt like he was kind of sitting behind me going, Dad, you need to go listen to some music. It's healing. You'll find some healing in it. I guess it was the day before Christmas Eve of 2015, and we got the results back of the scans. Everything looked great. It looked like we had this thing under wraps. It looked like Coop was going to be one of the, 6% that actually beat it. So, that was great. That was a Christmas present, not just to Heather and I as parents and to his brother and our family, but I think that it was a great Christmas present to the entire staff here. So we roll on. We have a great holiday. Why not? What greater thing to celebrate outside of Jesus Christ's birthday? So we roll on, and, everything's going great. 90 days, we'll come back in. We'll do scans. March 4th, we rolled back in to Cook Children's Hospital. That was on a Tuesday. I'd called on Monday, tried to get a doctor's appointment due to the fact that Sunday we had to get together at the house, and Coop was outside playing. And one of his cousins had picked him up, and, just being boys. They were just playing, and then wasn't even roughhousing. But Cooper let out probably the most horrible shrill I'd ever heard that boy let out. I thought maybe just that they'd picked him up wrong and it had popped his arm, or, something had moved, but couldn't get him an appointment in here on Monday. Finally got him here on Tuesday, and Dr. Ray called Heather that afternoon and said, we need to move scans up till Friday. And, mind you, we're still 3 weeks out from whenever our original scan date was, our 90-day scan date. Well, we came in. Well, I'll say we. Heather came in. I went on to work as usual. And I got a call around 11:30. When I looked down and I seen that it was Heather, I knew. I answered the phone and said, I'm on my way, and she was in here. She said, okay, hurry. And I got here, and Dr. Ray was sitting with her downstairs across from the spa, which is a special procedures area. And he said, I'm afraid to tell you this, but it's back. And I looked at him and said, well, what do we do? He goes, it's bad. I don't know what we can do. What do y'all want to do? And as a parent, you want to fall apart. I looked at Heather and I looked at Dr. Ray and I said, you know what? We fight. As long as he can fight, we fight. We fought it once, we fight it again. And Dr. Ray said, okay, there's some trials out there that I want to try to get him into first at St. Jude's. What the problem with this is that what the trial is that it has to be a new recurring tumor that has not been touched with any type of surgical procedure or radiation or chemotherapy treatment. So at that point, we discussed and we decided that we would hold off for 48 hours on any type of chemo or radiation to try to see if we could get him in to this study or this trial at St. Jude's. And what we had found out by the scans is that the mass had came back that apparently there was a tumor in the crease of one of the lobes on the left lung that we had not seen in the December scans. At this point in March, Dr. Ray feels like it had probably been a small microcell that there was no way that we could have picked it up. But at this point, it had consumed over 80% of the left lung. So we let it roll for 2 days, and we get the answer from St. Jude's of he doesn't meet criteria for the trial. So we get started with that first round of a second go, at treatment of the chemotherapy. Whenever the lung had been consumed by the tumor, fluid had been beginning to surround it. What we later would find is it wasn't just fluid, it was blood from lesions caused by the tumor. And so we had to make the decision to put in a chest drain tube. Unfortunately, the first chest drain tube was undersized, and it wasn't anyone here's fault. It was just one of those circumstances. But it was undersized because of the amount of fluids and the amount of pressure that the tumor was putting on the area where the chest tube had been placed. So therefore, it wouldn't drain properly, even after the surgeons coming in and trying to do what they call strip the tube, which human terms is basically siphon it by using the fingertips and pulling down on the tube to create a vacuum to pull the blood down the tube. So after about 36 hours of that, we decided to go ahead and replace it with a second chest tube, which was about 80-90% larger than the first tube. That tube, for the first 12 to 14 hours, showed some improvement on drainage of the fluids, which gave all of us kind of a little bit of a relief. But the next morning, we noticed that it had not drained much, and Heather and I had noticed throughout the night that the staff had been coming in more and more often checking it. And later that morning, we noticed that Coop was having a little bit of difficulty breathing. So we waited until rounds that afternoon, and when Dr. Ray came in, he discussed with us and told us, I think that we're at a point where we need to consider moving him over to the PICU, where they're more suited and more trained to handle intubation and assisted breathing machines, basically life support. Because his fear was if something were to happen, he didn't know that they could resuscitate him without major bodily damage, as well as organ damage. So Heather and I, we were beside ourselves. We didn't know what to do. We talked about it for a few hours, and we noticed that his breathing was getting slightly worse. At some point, his nose pick came out of his mouth or out of his nose, and he panicked, and we never could get his breathing back under control. At that point, I told the nurses to contact Dr. Ray and let's move him, which, hindsight, it's a good thing that we moved him at that point. As we're going down the hallway on the second floor going into PICU, Cooper basically went into complete respiratory arrest. He couldn't breathe. They had to intubate him there in the hallway as we were transporting him. There were a team basically of 6 or 7 staff members that were working, attempting to get him stabilized. As Heather has his med pole in hand, she is running ahead of the gurney. The 5 or 6 of them, I remember there was 4 or 5, on the sides, and there was one doctor that literally was sitting on the gurney that was trying to get him accessed. As I'm helping them push this gurney down the hallway, just hoping that I don't run over one of them and hurt them. We had high hopes that things were going to go different, but I think that we both knew in our hearts that we were at the end of the battle, and that Coop was at the end of the battle. We lost Coop at 9:26 on March 16th of 2016. It was a matter of seconds after Coop passed that I had these 2 gentlemen, the one to the right of me and the one to the left of me, that morning they were both standing to the right of me and to the left of me, holding me up and telling me that it was going to be okay and that we would get through this together. And these 2 gentlemen have never left mine or Heather's side anytime that we've called them. Whether it be to chit-chat or, hey, buddy, let's go grab a glass of tea and a sandwich, or, hey, man, where are you playing at tonight? All the way down to, hey, Raymond, Heather's going to bring some Cooper Care baskets up, but she's not comfortable. Hey, Maximus, I'm on it. I'll meet her in the parking garage to grab them. This isn't just a hospital. This isn't just a staff. This is a family of caring, loving people. And, I even still have it saved in my phone, our fifth floor family, because that's what Coop called the fifth floor. He didn't call it his chemo floor. That was his fifth floor family. Majority of them loved him. Well, they all loved him. Some of them couldn't stand his Nerf gun, though. Matter of fact, I think a couple of them actually put in for transfers over Cooper Max and his Nerf guns. He had this thing about keeping them on their toes, which there's a few doctors up there that they even had a little bit of fun in the wars. But it's a whole different world whenever you're put into the situation that we were thrown into. And, I can't honestly say that I could have made it through it, number one, without my wife. But number two, without Cook Children's and the staff here, I don't know if I could have made it through it and not wound up completely insane. Heather and I knew going into this, we knew that we had to do something to carry on Coop's legacy and his love for other people and always wanting to help other people and make things better for other people. So in December of 2017, we were approached by a law firm out of Dallas, which I won't name drop because I don't know if they're okay with that, but they were gracious enough that they helped us found what is the Cooper Max Foundation. That journey began in December of 2017, and then in June of 2018, we were notified by the State Comptroller's Office, the Internal Revenue Service, and the attorneys over in Dallas that we had officially received our 501c3 nonprofit public charity status. And with that note, I'm going to bring my wife in over here and let her tell you a little bit about the Cooper Max Foundation.
I'd like to take a moment before we bring Heather into this segment to introduce a very, very special part of this story as well. We actually had a patient, her name is Jamie, who was so inspired by Cooper's story that she actually wrote a song that we recorded here in the studio. I'd like to take a moment just to play just a portion of that because I feel like it's such an important part of who Cooper was and also a part of this story.
Yeah, they say cowboys can't be many sizes, but there is a small one I know. He started playing his guitar with this cowboy out going far, playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Wow. Again, that was a song written by one of our patients, and the song is called Cowboy Angel and was really the story about Cooper's life set to music, and just absolutely amazing. And so let's pick up. Heather, thank you again for being here today. Eric stated a minute ago that really the purpose of it is to keep Cooper's legacy alive and all that he stood for, even as a little cowboy. And so can you speak to that a little bit and even just let people know how they can get involved and just kind of what that means now for you?
Absolutely. So like Eric said, we did start the Cooper Max Foundation to keep Cooper's legacy alive, for his love of music, his love of children, his love of the hospital. So we founded this organization and we provide support to children and families affected by pediatric cancer. We're committed to helping children fight and get ready, and we're ready to provide financial assistance. So we help not only with electric bills, water bills, if families are backed up and can't pay their mortgage payment, because no matter what, your life does stop whenever your children is, in treatment. and you forget about the stuff at home. Between Eric and I, our electricity was cut off. He was at the Ronald McDonald House. I was here at the hospital. Nobody paid attention to what was at home. So we help families make sure their electricity is still on, make sure that their truck payment is paid, so they can focus on their children and letting their children, fight this nasty disease. So any financial help and support that we can provide for the families. We also provide, we call them Cooper Care Baskets to newly diagnosed children. Here on the floor, I have a good relationship with the social workers here, and they'll let me know, no specs or anything, just, hey, I have a child here that may benefit from a basket. We don't ask any questions. We just bring up Cooper Care Baskets with soft towels, blankets, some journals, or stuff that you need in your new home. If you're going to be here 2 or 3 weeks, you don't remember to bring, or maybe you go to the emergency room and you don't have a bag with you and you don't know what to bring up. And if your husband packs your bag, you're definitely going to need a Cooper Care Basket. I can promise that. The Cooper Max Foundation also is here to support the extracurricular activities at the hospital. Sunny Raymond, the music room, of course, Child Life Zone. We support any activities that kids can get involved with. We do tricycles, paintings. He loved to paint, so anything art or anything to get the kids up and out of their bed and get their mind off of what they're going through. They're not at home, but maybe they can have just a little bit of fun while they're here. Mm-hmm. We also work closely with other organizations that support just research for certain type of cancers that are not treatable. So Cooper's cancer was rare. We are very close with the research doctor in LA that's working with rhabdoid tumors and personalized medicine. And we work really closely with Unravel Pediatric Cancer, which is a research foundation. And then, unfortunately, we're also here to provide financial support for families that are burdened with funeral expenses and cost of burying their children. Eventually, we do want to start providing a scholarship for siblings of cancer patients, whether they've lost their sibling to cancer or they fought right along with them. We think it's very important because Cooper's half-brother, Braden, kind of got put on, the siblings always get put on the back burner. They still have to go to school. They still have to make their grades. They still have to keep everything up. And even if they lose their sibling, they're still expected to do all this stuff. So we think it's very important to provide scholarship money for these kids that have went on to graduate high school and they're going to do bigger and better things because it's a struggle for them. And I think it's important that we recognize them.
I love that. And, one of the things that we've heard consistently throughout from physicians to staff people, whenever we talk about here at Cook Children's, and even here in the studio, as Sunny can talk to as well, one of the things that we want to make sure that we don't forget are the siblings. Life kind of focuses in on the child who is sick, as it should. But then even here in the studio, we get siblings involved, and music becomes a part of that. And what you guys are doing is so important. And so I love that you're including that in what you do and just thinking holistically about the whole family because everyone is impacted.
What better people to have a testimony that like Eric and Heather have because they lost their child. So they're already thinking ahead. They've been through it. And so it's really cool that Cooper is still touching lives through his family and that they're carrying on his legacy. In a short time, all the lives he touched. And now, because of what they have been through, they didn't just quit. They kept on keeping on and fighting and to help others with that pain and suffering that they've been through. And now with their guidance through Cooper in their heart and with them every day, that they now are helping all these other folks that, like I said, they've lived it. So now they can help others through Cooper.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you all being here. I know it's sometimes tough to come back to, a place when something like this happens. But I know that what you, Eric and Heather, what y'all have done and are doing is you're doing what I would call heaven's work. And I know Cooper is, I won't say would be, I know he is extremely proud of what y'all are doing. And you're continuing to touch lives the same way. What he did when he was here was just an echo of what you guys already were and what y'all are continuing to do. Y'all are our heroes. And so we love y'all. We appreciate you. And
we're family.
We are family.
We're family.
We appreciate y'all having us here, and we appreciate everything that y'all did for us, because y'all are part of this too. Y'all are the ones that support us and, come to our events if we have events. You talk to us if we need you. You bring up care baskets if I need you, or tricycles, or at any time I know that anybody here at Cook's we can reach out to and they'll help us. So we appreciate the guidance, and it's a lot easier to run our foundation when there's a hospital like this around.
You can check out the Cooper Max website,
thecoopermaxfoundation.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Google the Cooper Max Foundation, and you'll find all of our information on the website. There is a list on there if you'd like to get involved in the Cooper Max care baskets. Any student athletes or any schools can reach out to us anytime on our website. My cell phone number, pretty sure, is on there anytime. Thank
love y'all and appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us in today's podcast. To experience all our centennial stories, go to www.cook100years.org. That's COOK100years.org.